This video is going to cover how to use the Gig Poster Style Kit for Adobe Illustrator. So the file you're going to want to open up is called examplesize.ai, which will contain this type right here. And I have this file here because the size at which you create your artwork does matter, as there are a lot of different strokes and effects in this set that are based on certain sizes. So this example size tends to work really well. Although you don't have to use it, it's a really nice starting point. And the font used inside of it is a free font. There is an HTML file where you can download this free font if you want to follow along this tutorial exactly. Any font that has nice, bold, thick lines like this one tend to work the best, as a little bit of breathing room tends to work really well with a lot of these effects. But you can definitely experiment with different font styles, different types of objects, and see how this works. So the first thing I'm going to cover is how to open up the swatches, which are shown right here on my screen, as well as the Gig Poster styles, which are shown right here on my screen. You want to make sure when you go to Window that Graphic Styles near the middle has a check mark, as well as Swatches, which is near the bottom, has a check mark. So I just put them right here on my screen so I can show you how to load these up. And there is a PDF instruction booklet included as well that covers how to load these, but sometimes it's easier to see it done. So to load swatches, have your swatches window open, and then in the upper right hand corner there's a down arrow with 4 lines that brings up a drop down menu. You want to click that and then go to Open Swatch Library, and when you hover over that, it'll bring up this new window where you can select Other Library. After that, you want to navigate to the folder where the Gig Poster Style Kit is that you unzipped when you downloaded this file. I'm on a Windows machine, so if you're on a Mac, this might look a little bit different, but you just want to select the Gig Poster Swatches.ai file and then hit Open. When you hit Open, the swatch window should appear. I'll just move this out for a second so you can see what I did. If you stretch out the swatch window like I did right here, you can have each color on its own layer. When you open this up originally, it might look something like this. That's a little bit more confusing, but if you just stretch it out a little bit, then each color will be on its own individual layer. And I think it's a little bit easier to navigate when you do it that way, but of course that isn't required. And loading the graphic styles is just like loading the swatches, except you're going to do it from the graphic styles window. So once again, in the upper right hand corner here, there's a down arrow with 4 lines. Click it, go to Open Graphic Style Library, and at the bottom here, you want to hit Other Library. Once again, you want to navigate over to the folder where you downloaded these files and open up gigposterstyles.ai. Although if you are on CS6, you want to open up gigposterstyles-CS6, and if you're on CS5, open up gigposterstyles-CS5. If you don't do that, the file might error out and open up a blank window. So if that happens to you, just make sure you open up the appropriate named file for whatever version of Illustrator you happen to be using. But once you have that done, all 60 of the graphic styles will load up in their own window, which I have shown right here. And I'm just going to close these additional windows since I don't need them right now. And applying these effects to type is super fast and easy to do. But first I want to make sure you have your Appearance window open. So go to Window and then Appearance near the top here. And the importance of the Appearance window is so you can modify these styles later if that's something you want to do. So applying these effects is actually really easy to do. Just click and hover over your type and let go to select the type using the selection tool, which is V as a keyboard shortcut by default. And then in the Gig Poster Styles window, you can select whatever style you want. And there is a reference guide included as well that shows you how all these different styles look. If I hold my mouse over one of these styles, you can see the name, in this case, Gig Poster 22. So in that file, when you open up that PDF, it'll say what the name of the actual style is. So you can quickly find it by just hovering over and figuring out what number it is inside the Gig Poster Styles window. So you can keep on selecting different styles until you find one that you really like. And once you do, you can just deselect it and then it should be pretty good to go. If you want to scale these later on, you might want to make sure that Scale, Strokes, and Effects is checked. To do that, inside Windows, it's Edit, Preferences, and then General. Right here it says Scale, Strokes, and Effects. Make sure that's checked. If you're on a Mac, I believe it would be Illustrator, and then Preferences, General. And then this menu box should be relatively similar. If you don't want the scales and strokes to affect, you just uncheck this box, but mine's checked. So that way, really quickly, I'm just going to shrink this down a little bit. You can see that the strokes scale down nicely and they look appropriate, although it is worth noting that the actual pattern fills won't scale. Although that does add a little bit of versatility. If you want the patterns to look a little bit different, you can scale this up or down, and it will appear to shrink or enlarge the pattern fill depending on what you do to the object. So I'm going to select this type using the selection tool again, and then I'm actually going to go over to my Appearance window here, which shows all the different effects that I've applied to this. The first thing to look at is roughen. It's at the very top here. If I zoom in a little bit, you can see that all these lines have a little bit of a rough, handmade sort of appearance. I like how that looks on these, so I put this roughen effect on pretty much everything. If you don't want this effect to happen, just click the eyeball next to roughen. As you can see now, it's nice and straight line, so if you want a little bit more rigid look, just click the little eyeball next to roughen to turn it off. I'll zoom out a little bit more here. If you want to change colors of any of these objects, you can do that using a combination of this appearance window as well as these swatches. So right now the stroke is a 4-point blue that has an X marks pattern through it. If I want to change this color to be, let's say, something else like a soft pink, and if you look at the color swatches right here at the bottom, there's 4 different folders of different color patterns that work really well together. At the top are the bright colors, in the middle are standard colors. It's a blue and an orange that have a pretty neat effect when used together, and at the bottom here there's pastels. So I'm going to convert this to using pastels. So I'm going to click on this little box that has the stroke right here and hit the box for the soft blue under pastels. And as you can see, it has updated that on my overall appearance of this type right here. Under fill, I'm going to change the fill. Right now it's an orange with a cross mark going through it. And if you hover over the different pattern swatches here, it will say what name of color it is. So a soft blue, soft pink. I want soft pink since that's a pastel, so let's do a soft pink halftone. It goes ahead and changes that really easily. This white fill right here is just adding a little bit of separation between this, so I'm going to leave that as is. But I'm going to change this blue color to a soft blue pastel. So as you can tell, it updated this color really quick and easy, and you can go ahead and experiment with different color combinations, different combinations of halftone swatches. It'll really add a ton of versatility to what you're working on. Although before you make these changes, make sure the type is selected. If you ever forget to select the type and then you unclick it and then you try to make changes, like I'm turning off these effects but you can see nothing at all is happening, it's because the type itself or whatever object you're working on doesn't happen to be selected. So just make sure you hover over that and have that selected before you make colors. And of course, if I wanted to, let's say, remove this fill with the halftone dot altogether, just hit that eyeball, it'll take it out, and then it's gone off this object. But at any time, you can go ahead and just hit that eyeball once again to place it back on here. So using the appearance window like that gives you a whole bunch of different options to really customize these however you see fit. I think the 60 included options is quite a bit and should give you a whole lot of use, but sometimes you might want to tweak stuff just a little bit or change it up just a little bit to suit your needs that much better. And using the appearance window like that is how you can really get that done quickly. Just make sure you click on whatever thing it is once again, select whatever color you want. If I want to make this orange, click on the orange, it'll apply that, and make sure you actually have the type or object selected before you do all this. And I have this box open here just to show you how you can apply pattern swatches if that's something you want to do. Just draw a solid shape of any color you want. Make sure your fill is in the foreground by just clicking on the fill here. It'll appear in the front. If the stroke is in the front, you want to make sure the fill is in the front instead. Make sure your object's selected, and then I can go here and just hit different pattern swatches and apply them. It's pretty easy to do, and these make for some really cool backgrounds if you want to apply them in a very subtle manner, so you can kind of go in there and experiment. And some of them are a bit smaller, so if you want to zoom in to get a better look at how all these look, you can go ahead and do that. There's some diamond shapes like this, and like I said before, I did name each of these different swatches, so if you hover over one, for instance, this one says red large solid cross. If you click that, that's what you should be getting. But there's quite a few different options there to experiment with, so I would definitely go ahead and do that and kind of experiment how you might be able to make overlays or custom elements using these different pattern fills. You should be able to apply them to any kind of solid shape really easily, and if you wanted to, you could even just do type in a solid fill of any of these halftone patterns and it should work just fine. But that's really it for the instructions with this pack, and do remember at any time when you select over an object, you can go ahead and apply a new graphic style whenever you want if you want to shift how that looks, and it does remain fully live and easy to edit, so at any time you can change how the type looks or change what the type's name is. It should be pretty easy to go ahead and do that, and you can apply it to stuff like this. If you want to apply a graphic style to a solid object or a silhouette, you can go ahead and do that. It's pretty easy to do. I think it works best on very simple objects so things don't get too muddy or complex, but as always, go in there, experiment, and see how it works for you. If you have any further additional questions, don't hesitate to ask by either leaving a comment on this video on the product page where you bought it, or you can reach me on Twitter or my website. I'll place links to all those in the description of this video, and thank you so much for picking this up. I hope you get a lot of use out of it, and thanks for watching.